October Planning Commission meeting to the August Planning Commission meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Look for a motion to adopt the agenda. Are there any changes? Dave,
Yep, it's complete.
I look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion made and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's adopted. Approval of the July, I look for approval of the July 28th meeting minutes.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and second to approve the July 28th meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Dave?
Yes, sir. All right, first item on our agenda is 113 East Hancock.
It'll be a second to bring up the map.
All right, oh, okay. So can you bring up the pictures? I think they're A through D.
Oh, that's where you're going.
So that's,
He's getting there.
These.
yeah, there we go. There should be 4 pictures here. Is that the top one?
Mhm.
All right, there we go. All right, so this building here is currently zoned R2. It's actually a 3-unit, which if it was built today, couldn't be built on that lot based on R2 being a 1 or 2 family dwelling. The owners of this building that owned it for the last 25 years were going to sell it. They got right to closing, and the insurance company realized that this was zoned R2. And they're concerned if it was destroyed more than 50% of its equalized value, which in our ordinance, they wouldn't be able to rebuild it. So the owner is petitioning to have this zoned to an R3, which would allow this 3-unit building to be constructed on the same parcel. So if you look to the right there, there's a large band of mature trees. So on that side, the neighbor has a full, pretty much obstructed view of that building. If you go to the next picture, I believe it is the building on the other side, which is currently zoned R4, which would allow for multifamily. And since this is a non-conforming R2 property, I'm recommending to the Planning Commission to allow this to be changed to an R3, which if catastrophe hit, tornado or whatever, it could be rebuilt on that lot. So this one and the one next door on the other side of the trees there, that's also kind of a large footprint, even though it's a 2-unit. So I don't think it would cause any undue balance in the neighborhood by building that back to a 3-unit. So based on my observations, I would recommend approval to change the zoning on this, to bring it out of the non-conforming state and allow it to be rebuilt if it were damaged.
Do you have any questions?
I'll need a motion, but So this motion, if we decide that we want to move in that direction, would be a motion to recommend this to council because it has to go through council as well. So if we decide to move forward, we need a motion to recommend this to the council for approval.
Just wonder if anybody's got any questions of you of,
What's the consequence if we don't rezone it? Would they have to?
They would probably be stuck with a 2-unit maximum. And the problem the insurance companies having is obviously the house is worth more as a 3-unit. So they want to protect their interests, which I understand, and then also for the owner. Now, the ordinance does state in here, a property's owner petitions in which owners may propose modifications to the zoning in which they are located in order to better do their part in carrying out the city plan. The city plan, they're outside that right now, so this would move it more into what the city plan would allow if we did an R3 there. So, and then in serving the public interest, so.
I know that you weren't here, but how do you suppose this happened in the first place as far as?
I think this house is almost 75 years old, so when they drew up the zoning maps, they didn't take that into account.
So it was just
There's a
missed
fair
at
amount of
that point?
existing properties in the city that would be considered non-conforming based on our current ordinance. And I mean, as we run across them, I think it makes sense to update them if they're not gonna move us in a negative direction on what we want to do as far as the city. So I don't think this would impact negatively any of the houses that surround that. So.
And just so everybody is aware, across the street from there is the parking lot for the church. So there's nobody across the street that would be negatively impacted either.
I think there'd be little or no impact.
If that building would go down, what could they build in that place?
Like a 2-unit.
I mean, as far as when we rezone it, if we rezone it? Like
If you
what's,
rezone it, see, my first thought was to make it an R4 because the house next door is, but we don't want a 8-unit building on that
That's
lot.
what my
So 3
wondering
is
was
is the max for an R3.
okay,
So I think that makes the most sense.
okay.
anybody have anything else? I'd entertain a motion to approve the moving from an R2 to an R3 at 113 East Hancock Street.
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'm
Again,
sorry.
Dave.
Who made the motion? Okay,
Second.
yeah, okay, thank you. Just a second here. All right, we're ready for First State Bank. So in our early on discussions, I was sent this drawing. And it basically shows the main components that we require in a site plan, which are a building plan, site plan, landscape plan, utility plan, and drainage plan. So the engineer that's doing the work for them, even though the color one's a conceptual, he's drawn out the plans on that. So we have all the architectural drawings for the 5 items that we require on our site plans. So I think they've done their due diligence and get us the stuff we need to make a determination on whether to approve this to send to the council for approval as well. I have talked with our Public Works Department and our Utilities Department, and they are comfortable with the design that's been proposed. And there may be some tweaks as they're building this, but as it stands right now, it would meet current ordinances for both of those departments and mine.
But I think it's fine to do that, not Jay.
Yep.
We're currently working with First State on the electric
I
service.
believe Robert's here as well. Yep. And then it meets it from a zoning standpoint. So this is the one we did the CSM for.
Mhm.
And this is kind of what the final product's going to look like. Some of the trees may change a little bit here and there based on availability and stuff, but for the most part, this is what we're going to be looking at. So the address going forward is going to be 222 West Wapaka Street. So it's going to have a new address as well.
When are they supposed to start it, they said?
Pardon me?
When are they gonna start it, they said?
I should have, I didn't think about, I should have put the time, they sent me a time plan. They're hoping to have this open mid next year.
Mhm.
So they're gonna get rolling on it right away as soon as, assuming they get approval
Right.
from the planning commission. And then the next step will be the council. And then they've already sent their plans off to the state. So about 4 or 5 weeks, we'll be getting the building plans back so we can start.
Anybody got any questions?
Am I seeing this right, that they will be entering that off of that street that's right next to the Wolf River Plaza? Will they be entering here? And-
There's two, I think there's 2 drives, isn't there?
Three.
Well, I would think
There's
that
one-
this is the
That's gonna
drive.
be their main entrance off Wapaka there.
of
Yeah.
Wapaka.
That's where they're gonna come off. And I'm sure there is another entrance or 2. Yeah,
Yep, there's one on the north.
that's the main entrance. So,
This one?
no, where the green area is
Oh,
up
I
there.
see that. Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna come in up
Okay.
there. And that's the address of the building as well. It's on Wapaka. So,
Anybody got anything else? Look for a motion to approve the site plan for the First State Bank.
Also move.
I'll second it.
It's been made and seconded to approve the site plan for the First State Bank. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
all right. So the next item on the agenda is the final plat for the Becker Road Red Slab project. So this is the final plat. And it inadvertently got sent to the state before planning commission approval. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. The state has reviewed this and approved it. And we've got 2 modifications to this that we'll get an updated map at some point to. So the retention pond on there, the way they had that written up, that the city was going to be responsible for that. That's not going to be the case. So that is part of the plan is going to be amended, the plat at the state level. Also was the utility easement. We decided to move that. Jay has looked that over. He's approved that. All the other components of that have been approved through zoning and any other departments that had a say in it. So we're looking to seek a motion to get the final plat approved with the 2 amendments.
If the city doesn't own the retention pond,
We don't
Who-
want any
who
part
will?
of that. We want them to, it's gonna be written up so that the apartments and the owner are gonna be responsible for maintaining that,
so the properties adjacent to the pond will be responsible for it?
and the owner. I think they're writing up agreement for them to take care of that. So ultimately, the owner's gonna be
That's what-
responsible
The
because he owns. the
owner of the
property.
multifamily, yes.
Multifamily, okay.
His apartments that are on the south side of all this.
So I can say that the city works with our own engineer. And there's been a lot of discussion and this has been vetted and then some. So they've looked at every component of this and they're comfortable with the design that was completed here, other than those two changes. And the state has agreed to update their records to show those when those get written up. And then we'll have a final plat on site here for obviously when those changes are made. So
Did
And
they
in
get the little
conjunction
issue
and-
with that guy up there that was complaining about the level of it? Did they get that issue?
that's all been worked out.
Okay.
And there was some back and forth between the 2 the developer that we use and their developer. And we finally were able to come to a consensus. It was quite a bit of work, but I think we're comfortable now with everything that was proposed. So,
You mean engineers, not developer, between their engineer and our engineer.
correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to follow up with Tim's question, in conjunction with this, once this is finally approved, there is a stormwater management plan and a stormwater management agreement that has been drawn up. And once this is approved, that'll kind of tie into the stormwater management agreement, and the agreement also specify who's responsible for the maintenance. There's a lot of, I think I actually sent that draft to you. There's a lot of engineering and hydrostatic engineering that's got to be done with that stormwater management plan. But the agreement basically also says who's responsible for maintenance, which is the owner, Mr. Retzloff, and then gives us the right to inspect it. And then if it's not up to par, we could go in there and then send them the bill or force him to do things. But his responsibility, but we can enforce to make sure he's complying with the stormwater management plan that's been approved by the DNR.
They have to fence that? Put a fence around it?
I don't think so.
Certain ones are not.
No.
You'd almost think where they have to have fence on the swimming pool, that you'd almost have to fence that so a kid didn't fall in. Because if you have a swimming pool in your backyard, I don't know what's underground or what, and if it's, you gotta have a fence so high.
Yeah, they're heavily regulated, but these are not,
Yeah, I've never seen one around one either, one's down in Appleton, but
it's not required.
not, okay.
No.
Anybody have anything else? I'd look for approval of the final plot for Becker Road with the 2 amendments.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and second to approve the final plot for Becker Road. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Like we're ready for the comprehensive plan. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay.
You're just in time too. I didn't have to sit through too much. That's my voice, I know. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I think we can keep things fairly short this evening, but that'll depend on how many questions or discussion items we have. Wanted to first touch on the citizen opinion survey, and I checked with our staff in Menominee who has access to the Survey Monkey tool that we use. And as of this morning, and I was a little surprised, we have 96 responses. I would have thought it would be higher by now. 79% completion rate. Typically that'll be up more towards 90%. So some people have started taking it but haven't completed it. And an average time of 11 minutes taking the survey. So it's not by any means, too cumbersome or too large. Most of the time that we do surveys, we find it takes anywhere from 9 to 11 minutes. And that's why we like to keep it at about that 25 question area. I do believe the mailings had gone out for utilities citywide. So can't argue with trying to promote it better than that and getting the word out. It is possible that some people just don't use computers or don't like doing things online. So that could be part of it. Certainly if people wanted a paper copy of the survey, they can come down to City Hall and get one. So we've made opportunities there. So, do what you can over the next week or so. If you're chatting with folks or at a neighborhood barbecue, encourage people to take it. Right now, with the responses that we have and knowing there's just about 3,000 households in the city, I'm not sure how that compares to the actual number of utility customers. We're probably ballpark 4,000. Okay. But at 3,000 households, that's about 3%. Typically, we'll see responses more in the 5 to 10% area. So a little bit of a boost over the next week could certainly help. We do have the survey ending on September 2nd, and that's a Friday, and next Friday already, isn't it? Geez, time moves fast. We will not turn the survey off until Monday morning, the 5th. So it'll give chance over people over the weekend. If they're a little bit late, they can still take it. And then Dave, maybe you want to make a note that need to pull the survey link off the homepage of the website Monday morning, the 5th. Well, that's Labor Day. So Tuesday.
Number 6.
Yeah. We can schedule turning off the survey itself, but I'll make a note. We'll just do that Tuesday morning as well. So any questions or thoughts regarding the survey? other than wish it was more people. So I have not peeked at the results yet, so I can't give you any indication as to what those are looking like. We'll certainly have a full report generated, and I think we'll be able to take a look at that in September already. So we'll get some good feedback. And I think, like I said before, even though the responses might be low, number one, you need to consider that at least the responses from people who did take the survey are people that obviously care. And I don't know if you want to give that some more weight to those that never participated. But I also find that even if you double or triple the number of responses, you do end up getting very similar results. So I think you can have some faith in the results, but ultimately it's you as the plan commission that needs to make the decisions, and how much those align with what the survey said ultimately will be up to you. So. All right. That being said, if there's no other questions, wanted to get through a couple of chapters this evening: intergovernmental cooperation and the utility and community facilities. I presume everyone had received those and had a chance to at least skim them, if not read them closely. The intergovernmental cooperation element we'll start with. It's sort of short and sweet, and most of the time in these plans, they are pretty short. Meets the state statutes in terms of the content. I do know, going through this element, using the old plan, which was done as part of a county process, because they were doing clusters across the county. The first time they did this, I had to do a fair amount of editing to kind of remove those parts of the process, but a lot of the content and the intent of the content has remained the same. So, and do let me know if there's some corrections, but the city is currently part of 2 cooperative agreements with the senior center and with respect to fire protection. I'm not aware of any other agreements.
In the fire protection one, we are going to be, we just had a meeting with the townships, and that will be updated because the current one expires at the end of this year.
Okay, I think I have it noted there as being reviewed and be updated, so that's good. Talk a little bit about relationships with school districts, adjacent governments, and then dive into some opportunities, conflicts, and resolutions. And I will have to tell you, I've seen a fair amount of these plans, and maybe it was because it was part of the county's process at the time. But other some edits to remove sort of that county process flavor. This is probably one of the more comprehensive kind of looks that I've seen in a lot of plans about potential conflicts, potential opportunities, and ways to resolve them. So I wanted to make sure, since we had to do a fair amount of editing to this section, if there are any questions or concerns within that table about conflicts and resolutions and, you know, opportunities to resolve things. Any concerns? Other ideas?
I read somewhere, and I can't remember if it was in this section, that there was, you know, conflicts in the past, and I didn't get if that was, I'm trying to find it, I highlighted it on a different form.
Yeah, I think there's still a statement that alludes to that, and I would say if that was the case, it might have been before my time.
Way before.
Way before. And if things have changed, we certainly want to tone such a statement down.
That's what my point was gonna be, just to kind of, I don't want to kind of promote that that's the current situation.
Yeah.
When I read that, I thought, golly, I haven't heard of anything for a very, very long time.
I think that's the reason back in 2012 and in the early 2000s that the county was involved in a lot of this because of some of the challenge that existed out there. And we were in a little different time from a development standpoint, pressure wise and other things. So, and maybe to a great degree, the process they went through helped resolve some of the issues and got folks to talk a little more. So
Change of leadership helped a lot.
that can always help too.
I'd like to go back a little bit here. I refer already to 7.4. If we go back to where the schools are located, I don't know, you probably know this, but the Most Precious Blood schools will not be operating this year as a school. And that's through the, whatever, the Catholic diocese or something made that determination this last week. So they don't have enough teachers. Closing the school down. they're making the option available, what I've heard, the option available to bus the kids that want to go to St. Mary's in Greenville. So, and that would be what, K4 kids that would be being bused over there. So we may want, need to change that. And as far as a other educational facility.
Make note of that. I did not hear that news, but the last part of that intergovernmental section really has goals, objectives, policies, and recommendations, and really didn't look at making a lot of changes, if any, mostly editorial in there. Again, I think the content is probably much more than any typical comprehensive plan in terms of outlining these types of things. I think there's some good policies in there that are sensible, as well as the recommendations. And I think, the point of this is always work with your neighbors, work with the counties, with the state agencies as best you can, as frustrating as it might be. But where there's mutual interest, see if the city can take advantage of that. The more you're able to secure your future around the borders, and not always have to get into kind of annexation battles, which I don't think are too present here, things are going to go much smoother. Landowners are going to know what their situation is and what the future holds for them, and the like. So it's just really good practice, and particularly when you're talking about land use, transportation, and those types of things, that coordination is certainly very, very beneficial.
We just turned back some that we then had annexed and give it back to them. They were happy with that.
Well, that's a rarity as well. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns on intergovernmental? Okay, I'll find that statement in there and I'll made a note. We'll tone it down, get rid of it, change it, just so it doesn't exacerbate anything or make people think there's a wicked evil history by New London. So, all right, we'll jump into the utilities and community facilities element. This is usually one of the more challenging elements and time consuming ones to try and follow up on all the various services that the community has. So done my best to try and capture and update the facts and hopefully the important items that came out of that. But certainly if there was something missed, or if we need to expand on anything or make some additions, certainly now's the time to let us know. I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but I will start by saying in general, you've got pretty good levels of service in all of your areas. And while there might be some short-term needs and some long-term needs, tell me a community that doesn't have those. Maintenance, obviously, and just keeping up with things is always a challenge. But in general, particularly with respect to future growth and population and accommodating development, you look pretty good in terms of the planning period over the next 10 to 20 years without having too many challenges. One item in here, I'm still waiting for some information and some updates regarding fire protection. I've not heard back from your fire chief yet, but we'll fill that in and update that. If there's anything shocking, we'll make sure you know.
I just questioned, I highlighted myself, do we have to be that specific? That's pretty specific about the number of firefighters and everything.
The law doesn't tell you how deep you have to go in detail. And many times these chapters maybe go into a little too much detail, but I thought at least if this was in the past plan, it makes sense to use it and try and update it. I'm not sure who would be looking at that, but certainly if a prospective business came in and if they know to go look at the comprehensive plan for sort of a snapshot of the community, that might give them some assurance, in terms of the level of service and the quality of the service. So, so we can keep that. But we talk about the whole range of things: police, fire, emergency medical services, school facilities. You mentioned we're going to have to modify that or make note of the change
The medical services is way different because it talks about here, the New London Bear Creek ambulance. Right now, we are in a consortium with Gold Cross. And there's
Who is it?
19 different communities that are in that consortium. I got this community right here.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that, or I didn't see anything to make me think changed, but that's obviously working very well at this point. Okay. We'll update that section. Appreciate you pointing that out. As I mentioned, school districts or school facilities will make the change there on Precious Blood Catholic School.
Then the middle school did a major upgrade this year as well too. Interior upgrades. I don't know what the dollar amount is. I mean, they spent a good penny this year on their upgrades. I don't know what they all done yet.
We talked briefly about a variety of other things. The library, obviously, there's plans now to move that facility in the near future. I didn't want to speculate too much, but I think even in the past plan, there was reference to the potential for expansion of the public museum. Have any decisions been made with respect to that? Is this okay the way it's written?
I think with without planning has been done yet, I think we just have to leave it as is.
Okay, okay. There'll be some continued assessments on that and see what happens. Okay.
I guess with it says it's sharing space with the library, and if the library moves, it's not sharing space with the library anymore.
Correct.
Yeah, well, currently at the moment it is, but you're right, I should at least make reference again to the change.
Well, I think that's what that means, doesn't it? Where you're saying into space formerly occupied by the library. Is that the line you're at?
Well, we do say that with the recent announcement of library relocation.
The last sentence takes care of
Yeah,
that.
yep, so.
Just says it shares space with the library.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just saying what it is currently. And then it says it's going to move into the space.
Well, we'll be assessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not gonna make that promise in this document for you. Don't want to corner you.
Oh.
Parks, recreation and open space. The benefit here is that the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan was just adopted and updated last year. So there's a lot of current information from that. Try to just pull out and capture a few of the items that are of importance. Give a listing of the parks and facilities and then mention a number of the other facilities that exist, whether boat landings, state managed parks, state natural areas, campgrounds, as well as trails. And there's been a fair amount of change to trails over that time period. I have the one highlighted statement there on local trails because I didn't have a chance to call you, Chad, on it and didn't find any information that alluded to where that's at. This is out of the old plan. So at that time, this is how it was stated. So was that done? Is there progress? Is it still?
Nope, that
On the
has not
drawing
been
board?
done. And I can't recall if that's in the current open space and rec plan, but there hasn't been any progress or any discussion about trying to get the trail to Mosquito Hill at this point in time.
Is that something you think for long term would be of benefit? And
I think you leave something, the flavor or something in there that's, something we can look at, but I mean, there's no plans and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, does that hook up into the Newton Blackmore Trail in the future and that's the extension? I mean,
so ultimately, as opportunity allows, evaluate
Mhm.
connection. Okay.
and that's outside the city limits too, so it's kind of beyond our scope. It'd have to be work with the county situation as well.
Yep. Would need to be a sort of a multi-jurisdictional effort. certainly making that connection could possibly have some additional benefits for the city having access to that, but so you may want to play a role in it, but certainly you're not going to foot the bill in its entirety. All right. Well, certainly trails are ever popular in just about every community that we're working with right now doing comprehensive plans. We end up having an entire plan commission meeting talking about nothing but parks and trails because of the use. In fact, I was just talking with one of the staff at Brown County Parks, and she's been amazed over the last couple of years how things have changed and numbers just keep going up and up and up. So doing what you can to keep up with those facilities, I think certainly will benefit you short-term and long-term. After that, page 13, we start getting into some of the other major utilities, electric, phone, internet, gas, and sanitary sewer. I'm not sure if there's any comments or questions on the electric, phone, internet, and gas service items.
I was just gonna go back to solid waste,
Oh,
4.7.
Stole my thunder, Chad. I was just on it. I was waiting for him to quit talking.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, do we have to put the days and times in there? But I mean, it's different. We're right now, we're about 7 days a week.
Okay, I can eliminate those from there if you prefer, because those do have a
I
propensity.
mean, you
to
could say we have a
change.
yard waste site, but it's,
Yeah.
you know, the dates and times and stuff like that.
Still open generally May through November, right?
That's the basic.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's a big deal, Chad, but it says that we're currently using a vacuum suction device for the leaves, which we do not anymore.
Yeah, where's that?
Just down, last paragraph, right in there,
Oh, yeah.
right there. Just read that, and I didn't know if it was huge.
Just take out the type of device that we're using.
They just recently get rid of it.
It's been
It's a couple years.
a couple years now. We're using those tink claws.
Wasn't it deemed not to be safety neither with that?
The setup we had, because it was in the front and then the big pipe, there was some municipality, somebody hit a pedestrian with it because there was a vision obstruction, and then the state started saying you can't use those anymore.
Had it over in Neenah.
Yeah.
Run into somebody and that was the end of it. Oh, you could not hear it.
All right.
Happens, I guess.
Communication and power facilities mentioned. Sanitary sewer was able to update a fair amount of that. They had some good history in there as well. And typical with many communities and those with older systems, inflow and infiltration, typically a concern, but it sounds like you're addressing that as best you can.
With that said, I mean, and our treatment plant operator, maybe even Robert knows, can say a little bit better, but I mean, we've got some DNRs cracking down and throwing out new regulations and things. I mean, do we need to identify anything better in here that's gonna help us for any grant opportunities in the next 5 years?
I think trying to make sure that we've got some things listed, and it doesn't have to be expansive, doesn't hurt. It's one more reference, one more resource from a planning standpoint that you can make mention of. Obviously, you've got facilities plans that are done. You've got other studies you might refer to on the engineering end. But something like this can certainly, it can't hurt.
Yep. So those
So,
grants, they'll ask if it's in a plan somewhere and, you know, identify it to.
yeah. I mean, you've also got a lot of general and specific statements that you can turn to about, you know, the city's policy and vision to maintain services and infrastructure and those kinds of things, even if they're very broad, can often help. It shows the grant funder that you've been thinking about this stuff, maybe even more than one context. But if you'd like to see anything else specific added to that I'm not aware of, let me know.
Maybe Robert, you grab that and you touch base with Ben, because I mean, Ben's got, he knows what we're going for with the DNRs thrown at us for different regulations and whether we need to put something in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and then again, public water supply through New London Utilities. Managed to find, I think, sufficient information to update that, but certainly interested to see if I was off base on anything or if there was something critical that was missed. Don't see any highlighting on Chad's page, so must be good. Wellhead protection we talk about, and you've just reviewed and updated those plans this year, I think, right?
Yep.
Good. Stormwater management, kind of unique a little bit that you don't really have much of any stormwater ponds or things that the community owns. You put most of that burden on developers and development. Obviously, you haven't even had to go back in and retrofit old neighborhoods or anything and become owners of some of those ponds. So,
Yeah.
but the more that you can do as development occurs, certainly good. If you're looking at some large, massive projects, there may be some reasons to look at sort of regionalizing some of that stormwater, but the best thing is to keep every drop of water where it falls, if you think about it. So if you don't let it run off, you don't have to manage it too much. Healthcare facilities, give a listing there. And if I remember from the old plan, fair number of changes across all segments of that. So again, I'm hoping I'm not missing anything on those lists. I think you as residents are gonna know that stuff a little better, so. Thank goodness for Google Maps now too. It's a great resource to help pinpoint some of these things. Daycare facilities as well, we talk about, and then get into a discussion, fairly broad, but general trends and outlooks. And again, as I had mentioned, I think there's going to be a lot of challenges for communities in general with keeping up with infrastructure, not only because of costs, but because of budget constraints, levy limits, challenges of getting residents to pay more in terms of taxes in any way, shape, or form. You need to keep that in mind. While some of the oldest parts of your system are likely in some of the densest areas, we know these dense areas are very cost effective in terms of providing sewer and water and the frontage relationship to the length of pipe and things. So as you continue to develop, density is going to be your friend from an infrastructure standpoint. If you allow very large lots, a lot of frontage, you're not maximizing the use of that system. And you'd also have challenges even generating the tax base from a residential subdivision to pay for replacement of some of that infrastructure over time. There's been a lot of work done by some organizations really taking a look at that relationship of lot size, density, and tax revenue generation, and finding that in most cases, communities don't have enough revenue off of that to even replace what's in front of someone's house. I don't know if that's going to change.
There's another daycare. It's called Cat in the Hat Childcare
There.
at 315.
What street was that on?
315 North Shawano.
Oh, Shawano, okay. Very good, thank you. Then getting to the end of the document, structured just like all the other chapters, we've got a listing of potential improvements that are needed, short and long term. And again, based on the inventory and the information that we have, it appeared that these things were necessary. You've got one item highlighted there.
Yeah, I was wondering where that came from.
That was in the old plan. I had that note on that one too, because I wanted to double check whether that was a particular need.
When we have staff training, it's tough getting everybody in this room, especially with the horseshoe, the way it's set up. So, and maybe with the new library facility, that's going to accomplish that goal, you know, so.
Is this the largest space you have in any of the buildings for
the senior center, would probably be the biggest and would be great, except it's used by the county for a meals site. So during the day, during the work day, it's always used for that function. So we really can't use it for staff trainings or regional meetings or anything like that. So
That be something we want to keep on the list, and even if it's a wish.
I think I'll leave it in there for now. And like I said, maybe the library facility, when that's up and running, that accomplishes that goal.
Maybe I can change that a little bit and say something to the fact of like continually examine options or opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, for training, we've struggled. For regional meetings, I mean, when we host East Central, or if we want to host economic development type things, having a large gathering space would be definitely be a benefit. Police departments talked about that too. They could have regional meetings here for the police department as well.
Again, since your comprehensive outdoor recreation plan was just completed, I thought it'd just be good to take verbatim the listed action plan and the improvements over that 5-year period. Again, whether these things happen or not is dependent on a lot of things, certainly. You want to go back and have another one?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. And then we get into the goals and objective statements. And again, wasn't the need to do a lot of editing here based on what I saw. I think they're fairly comprehensive set of goals and objectives. Very logical. I don't think there's anything controversial in there. They make sense and what communities should be doing with respect to maintaining those services, maintaining those utilities, and dealing with some of the challenges that exist out there. Is there any comments, questions, or concerns on the goals or objectives?
Have you seen these change dramatically once, say, we get our survey results back and there's something that's reoccurring drastically that, oh, we gotta put it in here?
It's one thing we'll definitely want to look at. I think we had sort of the prioritization of some of the services, so we'll see what that looks like. But that is the intent. Once we get the survey results and digest them, we're going to go back and take a look at all the plan elements we've looked at and ones we haven't to see how that might fit in, or whether there's a conflict between what it says now and what the perception is. And we can then discuss those items and come to some resolve. So. A good number of policies in terms of the city position, city directive. To me, again, this is fairly extensive from what we see or even what we prepare in many plans. It's not a bad thing. I think these things are well thought out. They act as a bit of a checklist in terms of staff and where you're doing development reviews and other things. I would always encourage going back and looking at these kind of statements. Even if it's not a formal part of your review process, it's good just to see if a development or proposal aligns with things, if you're addressing the things that are listed here. So it certainly can be helpful. Does do any of your other committees take a look at some of these policy statements at all? There's talk about, supporting managed growth and development to avoid significant increases in demand for community services or facilities. Do you factor some of these things in when you're having some of the finance meetings and budget meetings? Just kind of getting a sense of these are used.
May not be a bad idea to send some of these just to committee levels, depending on what committee it relates to, just to see.
Yeah,
I'm sure everybody nods their heads and makes suggestions, so that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's something I think you aspire to. It's never going to be a perfect world. But I think I like the fact that you got these stated as policies and that you could take them very literally. You could make them the heavy or a strong statement if you're looking to discourage something in particular. So. Okay. And then at the end, a number of recommendations. And again, not a lot of changes. Many of these are somewhat generalized and reiterate some of the points that are discussed earlier in the plan, such as annually reviewing intergovernmental agreements, or at least periodically, making sure you communicate well with your two counties, looking at capacities, and that seems to be always a challenge, and now staffing as well, and that's acknowledged in here in terms of retention. It's just as difficult for a community to keep employees as it is private business, and we're seeing a lot of turnover in many of the communities that we work with at all levels. Any thoughts, discussion needed on any of those recommendations? If not, we do have a listing at the end of a variety of plans, county and regional ones, as well as some state programs. We will be looking at maybe consolidating a lot of the information regarding grant and funding programs, perhaps into an appendix. We've got a much more comprehensive list of those things that could be used as a resource. And I think that'll serve the city better, having all that stuff in one spot.
I highlighted these two, the UCF 4142. I don't know if Jay, if you caught that about the wind energy and stuff. I don't know.
I don't think we're gonna be a candidate for wind energy, so I didn't really comment on it.
So do we need to have that in there? I mean, for wind energy, you gotta have quite a bit set logs for large setbacks.
I don't know that we would accommodate anything within the city of New London. We don't even have a rate or a tariff or anything. We'd probably mirror something from the solar if we would have somebody, but I would be surprised other than a resident that would want a small application. I don't think you're gonna see a big, because they do site analysis for that, so.
You want to just remove the wind energy part out of those two? And
I just highlighted it just to point it out to see if that's something that should be in, should be out, And I'm thinking, what about like you see on Highway 10, who's got with the 4 smaller wind turbines there? Our, say, for example, somebody in our business park wants to throw some small ones like that in there. Right? Is that a good thing, bad thing, conflicting? I don't know.
it's not really stating that these are publicly owned facilities. Telecommunications are going to be private in many cases and stuff too. So I think maybe leaving it there in case that happens. It just reminds folks that we need to deal with these tall structures, and they could come in one of these forms when it relates to energy and such.
I guess we gotta look at our code too, because I don't even know if we address that in the code.
Something,
I don't know.
Is residential solar allowed in your code currently?
yes,
Okay. And utilized a lot, if at all?
we are getting more every day.
Are you? Okay. Yeah, I'm even thinking about it in my house too. The costs are getting cheaper, technology is better, and then with the battery options, it
Got lots of money.
make it more palatable. Yeah, I gotta do the math on the return.
Yeah.
So,
Been a long time.
I think the biggest misconception that we've seen, I just sat in on a PSC. We had another third party. It was very educational to have Clintonville, their school started to commit to a third party solar project.
mhm.
The city utility got involved. They reviewed the proposal and they backed out of it. They never signed the contract. The third party solar company sent some of the applications, the infrastructure to the school, and they're still sending them bills. So he said, just because you don't sign a contract, these third parties, they're claiming it's a financial mechanism so they want to be exempt, but they're selling the kilowatt hours. So they're acting as a utility. So that's going to come up. It's going to be very interesting in the legislation right now, how they act on this third party solar, because some states allow it. If we would, you're going to see that we already see solar customers. I can speak to our residential customers, the 6 solar customers that we have, 3 of them have already replaced their inverters, and 1 has replaced them twice. So the reliability of this, they sell this and people buy it hook, line and sinker. And I spend more time on the phone after the fact explaining why they're not getting the money that they were promised.
Yeah.
And I urge the customers, you should call here and talk to the utility. We can give you real numbers because they're trying to sell you something. And we had our last solar customer, I think it took her over a year. And it was a company from Utah, but they would only come seasonally when they had so many jobs in the area. So they had no intention to coming back. And she was paying for the solar array because she did a financial agreement with them. And she didn't get it online for a year.
Sounds worse than a cable company.
So, what they promise and what is real, that was a big discussion at the level for the PSC was, are these companies, really allowed to basically lie to their customers? Because, the city of Clintonville, the school district felt that they were really being duped by how do you, send all this infrastructure and they're still fighting with them to this day. And they never signed a contract. They never agreed to anything.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to all be aware when anything is trendy and it starts growing so quickly. I think you got to be a little skeptical too. So
Because I've had 2 direct communications with our customers about, how come I'm not getting the refund that they told me I was going to. They right away, they want to point the finger, blame the utility. And I'll show you whatever numbers there are, but if their calculations are off a sun 24/7, the sun doesn't shine every day, all day. So,
yeah, no, we've got unique conditions here. If those aren't factored in and they're using generic numbers from California or something.
well, and the other complaint is people don't realize they fix those solar panels on their roof and then it snows. And the production when there's snow on a solar panel is 0.
Yeah.
If you don't get up and clean those off, that's another job. If people know how many times we get a dusting of snow. So I've fielded a lot of those calls as well, where they say, hey, what's wrong with your meter? I didn't get any credit this month. It's like, well, did you look at your panels? Because the 14th here, we got snow and your panels shut off from the 14th.
Just forget about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, certainly if there's anything else that you think of as you look at this or want to see some additions, certainly from a grant perspective, let me know. We can get those incorporated. We'll fill in a couple of the holes that were in there. And then, like I said, once we get the survey results, we'll kind of look back at these and see if there's anything that's worthy of more discussion or potential change or anything new that wasn't considered. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to kind of, just in my mind and yours, kind of go through the schedule as I see it. And then I saw on your agenda after I printed this that you changed the September date. So
It's not changed yet.
yeah, okay. Well, I hand wrote it down there, so.
We're proposing to.
But we're just about halfway through this process and looking forward as I envision it, and this can certainly be flexible. September, whether it's 15th or the 22nd, I'm available both days, by the way, so that works for me. But we would hopefully be able to review the survey results, and also the economic development chapters, get through one chapter. And then moving on to October, issues and opportunities and the housing elements. Those will be 2 important pieces, particularly housing. I would presume, are you going to be meeting in November at all or have an earlier meeting? Or only if there's a need?
Possibly the 17th. I mean, the 24th, you're not going to meet, but depending on what's going on.
I'm not sure what's stacking up. I know SC Swiderski is going to be ramping up things, so it may take some time to deal with those. But as of right now, I guess we wouldn't know about November yet.
To be determined.
Okay. If you don't mind, I thought I'd throw at least one thing out too, if you wouldn't object. Maybe we could actually push the October agenda items to your November meeting. And the reason I suggest that is October 27th is my anniversary. And my wife usually has this thing about me having night meetings every time we have our anniversary. If you want to stick with it, that's fine.
Either that
I'll
or
still
we could
live.
look at doing 1 week earlier on the 20th if it works out in October.
That could work as well.
November 17th, you're getting in the opening weekend of deer hunting, and I don't know how many of you guys are gonna be traveling up north.
I'm not a deer hunter, so I'd be here, but that certainly can impact things. You want to, let's tentatively say October 20th then? You think that would work? I don't want to mess with anybody else's schedules or set plans that you had.
Council's on the 18th. Yeah.
Correct.
Wouldn't bother me. Anybody else? 20th, is that? I guess we could look at the 20th then.
I will be gone. It's the league conference that week. Sorry. I don't know if Eric, you go to the league conference?
I would, but I'd scoot out of there and come here and probably miss a steak dinner.
Yeah.
You can have mine. So,
Yeah, actually, I will be gone the 20th. The League of Wisconsin Municipalities Conference is at 3 days.
There are other days.
You want to go to a Wednesday?
I'd say move to Wednesday or
You
something.
want to meet on a Wednesday instead?
26th?
Or 26th, that would,
26th
26th of October work?
in October.
Yeah, in October. It'd be a Wednesday.
Works for me.
That work for everybody?
Right.
We'll have economic development the 25th, but you could do the 26th.
We always, we have 2 meetings through.
26 would work for me.
Sure.
26, okay. You'll all probably hear a collectively good sigh from my wife when I get home this evening. So if you get that sensation from her. Thank you.
Make a motion for his anniversary.
That's all I had for this evening. I don't know if there's any other questions, comments, thoughts you want to share. Otherwise, I'll see you in September. And I'll double check to confirm that you're still going on the 15th, but I'm available either of those days if you don't change it. So
Anybody got any other questions?
very good. Thank you. Enjoy what looks like a wonderful weekend.
This is Mayor Mark. I would just like to say thank you to everybody for being versatile to move this around because family life is very important. And I'd like to wish you a happy anniversary if we don't see you before that.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, did you want to, you were talking about having
Do
a
it.
heavy schedule for that number 9?
Pardon me?
Did you want to discuss the code enforcement update?
Yep,
or-
I do.
Right.
Kind of more of a building department update, but so this week, BSNA software for Michigan's been here since Monday. They set up a new software for the building department. So we're going to be able to track, send letters, do a lot of stuff that kind of been doing by hand now. So we'll be able to track code enforcement, building permits, zoning processes and zoning issues. So I'm hoping it helps alleviate some of the stuff I've been dealing with, and it'll kind of help for archiving stuff and scanning any documents that we get so that they're all in the server on a particular property. So we can go, maybe if we have something come before the planning commission, we'll be able to pull in more information as time goes by as we collect it. So also I'm working on the fee schedule for our department. We're quite a bit lower than other municipalities around this area. So I've been working on this for a couple of weeks now. So I have it about 2/3 of the way done. I'll be bringing it to the commission to probably take a look at, hopefully by the next meeting. To kind of look that over and kind of get some other people looking at it, get some input on some of the fees that we're coming up with. So there's quite a few things that we don't charge for that we probably should be, because we spend a fair amount of time. Like one I can think of is a CSM. And we're probably on a CSM, we got anywhere from probably 3 to 5 hours time involved in those, especially if there's some with more moving parts. So I spent a lot of time with the Kunkel Engineering that we use, and we've been looking at 8 or 10 different fee schedules for other cities. And we're trying to pick somewhere in the middle. We don't want to be the high. We definitely don't want to be the low. We want to be somewhere in the middle. And to make sure that the services that we're providing for our department, ideally a building department pays for its own staff. That's not set up that way right now. The city's having to kick in quite a bit to keep that department running. And most fee schedules are set up to what they call an enterprise fund, where the costs of the department are run by the fees.
You're gonna pick out a few communities around about the same size as ours for its comparison for us?
So we took the high, took the low, we kind of picked a middle road and kind of mirrored it after some of those, and they've been working on theirs too as well. So I think what I'm going to bring will be something that should be fairly close to, I think, where we need to be. And then it's fairly involved, so I'm hoping it doesn't take a lot of time, but maybe I'll get it to you folks, let you look at it for a while and kind of see where areas you think we might be a little heavier, a little light, and then kind of go from there. And part of that also is that's going to work into the budget, which I'm working on right now for my department. So we're going to kind of have to fast track this a little bit, because some of the budget stuff works with the fee schedule for amount of income you're bringing in. So we're going to have to kind of work those at tandem at the same time. So I'll be bringing some budget stuff. I did send out something in the packet. It's not finished yet because we're still waiting on some information to make some of these calculations, and one's the fee schedule is probably the biggest one. But if you look, the items in blue are the same fee that was on the budget last year. Yellow was where I've made one, I think I would delete it altogether, and the other I was able to reduce some. The one on the top, the city is proposing a modest pay raise to at least discuss. And that one would increase that top number there by 2 to 2.5%. If that, is something the city wants to approve. So that's pretty much what my budget's gonna look like. And then as soon as I figure out my fee schedule, then we'll be able to determine what the, what's that? I can't read it from here.
Which one?
What's the fourth item down there? Fifth item, sorry.
This one?
Contractual.
One up
service.
one.
Contractual
Yeah, I'm
services.
sorry, couldn't see that, but
Mhm.
yeah, so that's based on the assessor that we use and the Kunkel Engineering. And I met with Kunkel Engineering today. They're taking a lot more limited role. I've basically taken over most of the responsibilities in the building and zoning. So they're going to have a more limited role. So that number is going to change too after he's able to look at his numbers, and we're able to negotiate a different price for the services that they provide to the city. So this is just very first blush. So I just kind of wanted to get out there, and that's something that the finance department wants the planning commission to be involved in the budget and the fees as well. So I'll be having some more stuff ready for the next meeting. So. I think that's all I have for an update. Still kind of talking about the property maintenance code. A lot of stuff's been put on the back burner. In fact, I haven't even been able to process any permits for 4 days. So I'm kind of buried right now. So we'll try to dig out of that next week, and then start working on some of the stuff for the next planning agenda, including a little bit more to do with the junk, blight, and disabled vehicles and the nuisance stuff in our ordinance. So I guess that's all I have to report for now. Anybody have any questions?
And what you saw was the operating budget, which is modest changes. If there's capital items we have to look at, so like we mentioned, after talking to our city attorney, We feel, and he definitely commented that we need to look at a major zoning update with it, I mean, full across the board. So if we have to contract that out, we can put that in the capital projects as a request. That wouldn't be an operating, that'd be a capital project type thing, which a capital projects committee would review and consider for approval at that time.
Right.
So.
Discuss anything for upcoming agenda items, Dave?
Well, obviously, the comprehensive plan is on the next one. For the next agenda, you mean? Yeah. Also, SC Swiderski is really starting to put things in motions for their 2 developments that they're going to be doing. So I think you're working on the developers agreement.
Yep. So the reason why Dave's got the 15th is we are anticipating on sale of the downtown riverfront property on the 22nd. And one of the things that SC Swiderski has requested that just to make them feel better in the process, they would like the site plan reviewed and approved before they actually go through the sale. So we were talking about, they should be getting it today pretty quick so we can do the internal review, that we would do the plan commission approval of the SCS site plan for the downtown project the 15th. So then that's out of the way to work on the sale of the property on the 22nd. So that's why he's got the 15th on there for consideration.
I can't accommodate the 15th. I'll be in Madison. So I have a WPPI annual meeting and a board of directors on Friday, so I'll be out of town.
Is there anybody else that can't make a September 15th meeting? We'd need a quorum, obviously. And then I could probably get input from you 2 gentlemen for the meeting, and I could report on that.
You got anything else?
I don't believe so at this point. So we just need to determine if we want to move the meeting in September. And then I don't know if we need to verify that we are going to do that 26th in October. I think we agreed upon.
Yeah, I guess the 15th, we're gonna have the meeting on the 15th. Jay's not gonna be able to make it, but
And neither is Tim.
he's not on planning commission.
No, yeah.
No, you're gonna be able to make it, right, Jamie? Both of you will be able to make it? So then we should have a quorum then.
I'd like to accommodate them. You know, it's a couple big developments coming in.
Yeah.
So I'd like to accommodate their,
Sure.
schedule.
I mean,
It's important for them too, so yeah.
if the 15 wouldn't work, I mean, we could do the 19th too, Monday night, just as long as that's out of the way, and blessed before the closing on the 22nd. We just thought about putting a week ahead of time, but if the 15 wouldn't work for everybody, then we could try the 19th too. 20th, we got council, so that won't work.
Anybody have a preference? Would you rather have the 19th or the 15th? Doesn't really make a difference to
If I
me.
can't make the meeting, you guys will change it just because I can't accommodate.
Mayor Mark,
It's better for you guys.
considerations on your end? Still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Just takes me a second to unlock the phone. The only thing I have going on is I may have a contractor come and do my roof, and I won't know that until it gets sooner. And I'm leaving on vacation when they do that to get my dogs out of the house. But really, I think I would be okay to make it. And if at the very least zoom in.
So the 15th would work with you?
Yes.
Okay, then I guess we'll go with the 15th then.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything else?
I believe that's it.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
I'll second it.
Motion been made and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.